How are you all doing today? All right, I want to know where you're joining us from. Okay, Emma is saying no audio. If you can hear me, type in a 1 into the chat so I know you can hear me and I'm audible. I believe I'm audible. Thank you very much, Adedotu Ayodeji. Thank you. Fantastic. You can all hear me. All right. Let's also get to know where you are joining us from. All right. It's very important so we know how well and how far and wide we will be interacting with you, okay? Enugu, UK, Ireland, fantastic. Lagos, Abuja, South Africa, Hungary, absolutely phenomenal. Olajide is joining us from Jos in Nigeria. Okay, that's absolutely fantastic. I'm joining you all the way from Alberta in Canada, and I'll be your facilitator for today's session. All right, let's get into it. Our session today would focus around the skills you need to learn to transition to become a business analyst, a data analyst, a data scientist, or a data engineer. So we'll be looking at 4 different career paths today. 4 different career paths. And I'll start the session, do a little bit of introduction before we dive into the main meat of our session. So if you know somebody that can benefit from today's session that is not here already, engage, share the link with that person. Let's get as many people into this session as possible. Miriam, you're welcome, joining us from the UK. Now let's dive into our session for today. Okay, let's dive into the main meat of our session for today. Our session will center around getting the skills and experience to land a job across these 4 career paths. But first of all, let's get to know about Tenalytics and what we are all about and who we are. Tenalytics is a leading educational technology company, and the focus for us is on helping people across the globe to transition and get into tech. And we've done this over the last 4 years, helping over 2,000 people transition from the classroom to getting their very first jobs across different regions, from the UK to the US to Canada, across Europe, Africa, and Asia. And we offer different technology training around data analytics, data science, business analysis, data engineering, AI engineering, HR analytics, and so on and so forth. But today, our session would focus around 4 career paths. One of the things we pride ourselves on is on the quality of the experts and the quality of the professionals that we bring to bear. And I'll share my own experience with you. And yours truly, myself, my name is Adeza Suleiman. I'm a technology expert with close to a decade years of experience in data analytics and management consulting. I've helped over 2,000 people using Tenalytics as a platform to getting their very first jobs within the tech ecosystem. And my experience cuts across multiple sectors, multiple roles around different regions. I've worked as a data science consultant in the US and in the UK. I've also worked as a data analyst with Sahara Power Group, one of the largest energy conglomerates in sub-Saharan Africa. I've also worked as a data analytics consultant with FITC. FITC owned by the Central Bank of Nigeria, the NDIC, and all the commercial banks. And I've also worked across 5 different sectors, from energy to financial services to educational technology, and of course, the automobile sector as well. I currently reside in Alberta, Canada, and the focus for me is on helping as many people that look like me to get amazing career opportunities within the tech ecosystem. Personally, I've trained well over 8,500 people across multiple cadres, from entry level up to CEOs, board members, and so on and so forth. All right. Now, I'll share my slide with you at the end of today's session so we can all connect to each other on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Instagram. Okay. Now, what are we doing today? Our session would focus around 3 major areas. We'd first of all look at a real experience, a real world case study, something that happened in a bank involving all the 4 career paths we'll be discussing today. All right. And I would also introduce you into the pathway to becoming a business analyst for those of you who want to become business analysts, data analysts, data scientists, or data engineers, and what you must do to secure a job. And without those elements, you'd find it very challenging to secure a job within the tech ecosystem. And lastly, we'll talk about the upcoming cohort starting on the 8th of June, 2024. I'll share some success stories with you, and I would also have an amazing discount for some of you here on the call. All right. And looking at our impact over the years, a lot of the work we started to do from the year 2020 started to culminate last year, 2023, up until this moment. And so many publications, highlighted and indicated some of the work we've done within the space. For example, you have the Business Day talking about how Analytics has helped Africans across 4 continents to land tech jobs. Okay, we held multiple hackathons across different regions, and people got to participate, and it will be amazing for you to read and see what really happened during the hackathon. Healthy competition among professionals who have just learned the skill and those who are already experienced, competing to get the best results from the data we provided to them. Okay, and of course, so many other features in the publications, especially with PR Fire talking about reiterating Analytics' commitment to helping Africans to land tech jobs across Europe. Okay, so when you receive the slides, read the articles. They're very enjoyable reads, and you get to know the amazing work we've been doing within the space. For me, myself personally, I had no background in tech. My first degree was in industrial chemistry, just like so many of you. My first job was not also in tech. My first job was as a management consultant, all right? But I saw very quickly where the trajectory of the world was going. And I knew that for me to make an impact and for me to get into a career path where I have astronomical projection, I needed to get into the data ecosystem. So I transitioned from being a management consultant to data analytics. And along my journey, I've moved from being a data analyst to a data scientist and also a business analyst, and finally a data engineer. And I'll be sharing my own experience with you and also the things you need to do to get and land a job, and how Analytics plays a fundamental role in helping you navigate that journey. So if you are new in this session, this is the best class for you. If you don't have any experience, this is the best class for you. If you are in Canada, you just recently migrated. If you are in the UK doing your master's, you are in the US, you just moved to the US, or you're trying to pivot from your current career path to a new career path, then this session is for you. It doesn't matter where you are. You're somewhere in Nigeria, you're somewhere in Asia. This is an amazing session where you'd learn so many amazing stuff today. So take a pen, get a paper or a notebook, and jot things down. All right. Now, when it comes to the tech industry, there are so many different career paths to take, and this gets people very confused. Analysis paralysis. You analyze and keep on analyzing to find out, where are the best opportunities for me? How can I easily get a job? Where are the jobs that are high in demand? And I always tell people this, okay? One of the things we've done at Analytics is gather data from the last 5 years across the major job boards, from Indeed to the jobbank.gc.ca, to ZipRecruiter, Total Jobs. We gather data from all these different websites and we analyze the data to find out, where are the jobs going to be? And based on the analysis, we came up with 8 different career paths. And we further validated the analysis using the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report that clearly shows you where the opportunities would be, the jobs that are in high demand, that if I learn those skills today, I can easily get a job because The openings are there. The jobs are there. How do I get those opportunities? So the most important thing is you must join a career path that is high in demand. I don't want to get into a career path where I'm going to struggle to find a job. That's number one. Number two is ensuring that you understand what the role entails. Some of you don't like to make presentations. Some of you would fold when you have to make, a public presentation to even your team members in the same organization. So if you're that kind of person, you are shy to make presentations, there are certain career paths you don't want to get into. Even though it's a learnable skill, anybody can learn, public speaking, presentation, communication, and so on and so forth, which we've also embedded in all our training programs. All right. But the question is, if you don't know what you are going into, it becomes a little bit difficult for you to thrive in that particular career. And based on the career paths that are high in demand, we're going to talk about 4 of them today. The first one is the business analyst role. All right. We'll talk about the data analyst role, the data scientist, and finally, the data engineers. But before we move on, I want to find out from you, all right? I want to find out from you, which of the career paths are you interested in? Which of the career paths are you interested in? So I want you to scan the QR code you have on my slide, or you go to slido.com and enter that code. And I want you to type into the box you find there. Between the data analyst role, the business analyst role, the data scientist role, and the data engineering role, which of the career paths are you interested in? Okay, so just type and let's get your results before we move on. Okay, so one person is typing, somebody typed data engineering, fantastic. So let's get more entries. Okay, let's get more entries. You can simply just go to slido.com, you type in this number, 3529209, and put in your entry. Somebody type BA, business analysis, absolutely phenomenal. Let's get more entries. When we get up to 10, I think we can move on. Okay, so let's get more entries in. Which of these career paths are you interested in? Somebody has typed in data analyst, another data engineering. So you can see the data engineering increasing in size. People are typing in data engineering. So let's get more entries. We have 4 entries so far. Let's get a pulse of what you think with regards to the career path you're interested in. Okay, another person has typed business analyst. Data analyst is coming through. So we have data analyst right at the middle, very large. So people are selecting data analyst. Business analyst, fantastic. I think when we get maybe 10 to 12 entries, we can move on. So we have nobody has chosen data scientist yet. Nobody wants to become a data scientist. Interesting. This is actually interesting. So data analyst, business analyst, data engineer, absolutely phenomenal. We have 13 entries so far. Amazing. Okay, somebody even entered a career path that is not currently on the list, a HR analyst. That's also very interesting. So I think we have about 15 entries so far. And I think we can move on with this. So most of you on the call, or let's say looking at the sample of people that have responded to this poll, want to become a data analyst. But the question is, how do you become a data analyst? All right. And some of you are also typing in the chat. So I can see that data analyst, data engineering, and so on and so forth. One of the first things I want to tell you, it doesn't matter what you studied in the university. You studied Yoruba, you studied history, you studied psychology. It doesn't matter at all, because all these career paths are what? Skill-based career paths. All you need to do is learn the skill. I gave you my own example. I studied industrial chemistry, nothing related to anything tech, not related to business analysis, data engineering, data analysis, or data science. But today, I've had an amazing career within the data ecosystem. Okay, so I think I'll just close the poll here. And this is a very interesting poll, I would say. So data analyst number 1, data engineering number 2, business analyst number 3. Just a few people chose data science and so on. Amazing. Let's move on. Now, it's also very important for you to know people that have done the same thing that you are trying to do. All right. Are there people that have gone ahead of me? I want to become a data analyst. I want to know, are there people that have gone ahead of me? Because it always seems impossible until somebody gets it done. All right. So I'll share very quickly some success stories with you, and then we'll move into the rest of the session. And I'll talk about Toyin. Toyin's experience is amazingly phenomenal. And Toyin joined our program. All right. No experience in tech, no experience in anything data. She joined our data analytics program. And today, Toyin works as a benefits analyst with the NHS in the UK. All right, she got this job as a benefits analyst, and it came with full visa sponsorship. For anybody in the UK, you know what that means. Full visa sponsorship. She didn't have to go do a care job or do things like that. She got a job as a benefits analyst. We prepared her for our interview. We trained her. We prepared her for our interview and even wrote a reference for her to the NHS after she received her offer. And today, Toyin works with the NHS on full visa sponsorship, and she started just like so many of you here would start. She joined the program, learned the skill, prepared for the interview. And because we've worked with so many people that have also attended similar interviews with the NHS, it became very easy for Toyin to perform and get the job eventually. You have somebody like Benga. Benga landed a job as a business data analyst. And Benga's position for 2 years in Poland, Benga couldn't get a job. He was applying to jobs, but he really couldn't crack that code. He came to us, joined our data analytics program. We worked with him, we trained him, prepared him for interviews. And today, Benga got a job. He got 4 offers in Poland. And today, he works as a business data analyst with a company in Poland. He also have Tosin. And I want you to pay attention to Tosin. And I'll tell you the reason why. Tosin joined our data analytics program as well. And today, Tosin works as a fraud analyst with a company in the UK after completing our data analytics program. Now, what Tosin does is to prevent credit card frauds in the UK with a company in the UK. Now, why did I say you should pay attention? We're going to look at a case study today that involves fraudulent transactions. All right. And Tosin is currently on that role, real time, real life, doing the same thing, preventing credit card frauds in that company in the UK. You have Oluwadamilare, who recently secured a job as a sustainability data analyst with a company in the UK as well. He got his job last month, started on the role in April, and Damilare, just like so many of you, joined us, learned the skill. We prepared him for interviews, wrote him a reference, and so many amazing stuff. We worked on his CV, worked on his LinkedIn, and today he works with a company in the UK as a sustainability data analyst. All right. Now, I want you to listen to one of them. Okay. And let's listen to Toyin that works with the NHS, and let's hear from her. And I'm sure you'd learn 1 or 2 things from Toyin's story, how she was able to start, how she joined a masterclass like you guys have joined today, and how she was able to get the job. All right. So I'm going to click on the link for us to listen to Toyin. It's about 2 minutes or thereabouts. Okay. So I'm going to click on the link. And once you also receive the slides at the end of today's session, click on the link and listen to all these amazing professionals. So let's click on the link to listen to Toyin.
Crush your next job.
Right, so let me take it back right to the beginning. So it's a 1-minute video, very short, straight to the point. Let's listen to Toyin Eleja, how she was able to join our program and landed a job as a benefits analyst, full visa sponsorship in the UK. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Hello everyone, my name is Toyin and I recently got a job as a benefits analyst here in the UK. I've come from a medical background as a pharmacist who is interested in, breaking into tech. My first encounter with analytics was on LinkedIn. I joined one of their masterclass, just one masterclass where Efemina spoke, and it just took that masterclass to convince me. I joined in August, and a month after, I got a job. To be honest with you, every information skill that I was able to apply to get that job, I owe it to Tenalytics. Tenalytics did a great job and is still doing a great job. They groom you and nurture you from the cradle till you become confident. So my advice for you, most importantly, is join. Be integrated into a platform that empowers you and allows you to easily get that first job.
Right. So that's Toy. And like I said, I'm not going to bore you with too many testimonials. I would want you to listen to the amazing professionals yourself once you receive the slide at the end of today's session. Toy joined, like so many of you, a free masterclass like this, understood what the data analyst does, and she decided to go for the data analytics program, learns the skill. We worked with her, prepared her for our interview, and today she works with the NHS, full visa sponsorship, similar to Abigail. Abigail, currently in Canada, she used to work as a care worker in Canada, all right? But Abigail decided that, look, I'm not going to remain on that role as a care worker for too long. I want to transition into another role. She joined our business analysis program, and today, Abigail moved from a care working role into a business analyst, working with the government of Alberta as a business analyst. And that's Abigail's story. Absolutely phenomenal. You'd also want to listen to Abigail when you receive the slide at the end of today's session. Ramat used to work with British Gas as a customer service representative. She joined our business analysis program and we worked with her. And just after 3 months of joining us, she was able to secure a job, also full visa sponsored job, also with the NHS, working as a business architect. And this was after she completed our business analysis program. You have somebody like Michael, who joined our data engineering program, got a job with a software company in the UK. You have Idris Adebisi, who completed our data engineering program, also got a job with Jaguar Land Rover in Coventry, and today works as a senior analytics engineer with QuantSpark in London. All right. And these are professionals that started like you. You have Ebube. When I said we have so many people working in the NHS, I've talked about Ramat, I've talked about Toyi, and this is Ebube. Ebube joined our data science program, and this was the message she sent to us after landing her job as a data scientist. She sent her badge. She was super excited, and you can see the title, data scientist. She landed this job as a data scientist, and saying that my first role is data scientist, my first proper job in the UK after Tenalytics training. So many of you in the UK would understand what that means. And Ebube today works with the NHS as well, full visa sponsorship, working as a data scientist in the UK. You have Abdul Rashid, who lives in Abuja, Nigeria, working for a company called Chow 420 in the US as a data scientist. He's working remotely, earning in dollars and spending in naira. You have Efe, you have Shade, who was also able to land their first roles as data scientists after joining our data science program. And so many of you who would also start your journey today would get to follow the same track that these people followed. But before you even get to find out what did they do, how did they learn, how did they prepare for interviews, and how were they able to secure these jobs, it's important that we understand what these roles entail. And that's what I'm going to go into in the next few minutes, understanding the role of the business analyst, the data analyst, the data engineer, and the data scientist. And we're going to do that using a case study, a real life case study of a fraud case in the bank. All right. Now, A bank which is fictitious, obviously we change the name of the bank so that you can't identify the company. So the bank is called Modal Bank in Toronto, Canada, but it has operations around the different provinces in Canada, all right? And also in some parts of Europe. However, the company has been facing fraudulent cases. Customers have been reporting fraudulent transactions, and this needs to be solved in that company. So the customer success team, they've received so many complaints through emails, through phone calls, reporting fraudulent cases from customers. Now, this is where the business analyst comes in, because the business analyst does what? Analyzes the business. A business analyst's fundamental role is on ensuring that the company is either increasing revenue or reducing losses. Okay? And if that's the focus for a business analyst, the question is, when there are fraudulent transactions in the bank, customers will become wary. Customers will no longer want to bank with that same organization. So the business analyst comes in and decides that I need to look into the situation. And one of the first things the business analyst will do is to carry out some preliminary analysis, preliminary investigation. What exactly is going on? All right. So the business analyst gets the customer data and started to look into the customer data and found out that month on month, the number of new customers have reduced. New customers joining the bank has dropped. And this has implications. It means that the bank is losing money. It means that the bank is not increasing its customer base to also increase its potential revenue. Now, the business analyst notices that this is a big problem, and I need to go a little bit further to solving this problem. So decides to do what? Let's analyze. I need to analyze the current process of the bank detecting fraudulent transactions. So that's the next step. I need to know the process that the bank uses to do what? Detect fraudulent transaction. So the business analyst does what? Looks across the entire process, okay? From when the fraud happens, how the fraud has happened, and how we detected the fraud. And this is something called process mapping. It's something the business analyst would do. You look at a process end to end. How does this process start? How does the process end? And who are the different key players or key actors within this process? So the business analyst mapped out the process to identify the current state of things, the as-is process. So our process for identifying fraud in the bank, what is it like as of today, the current state? Now, when the business analyst has done this, it is easier for the business analyst to see where there are gaps. All right, maybe things are not done the way they should, looking at the current process. So in carrying out this process mapping activity to identify the current state, the business analyst involves key stakeholders. So the business analyst would sit down with the data analyst, sit down with the data engineer, with the data scientist, with the customer service team, and all the key players involved to do what? Carry out something we call stakeholder engagement to understand, why is our process like this? How can we optimize this process? Because that's the fundamental objective of the business analyst. You have a process. This is the way it is. How do we make it better? By implementing strategies. So by carrying out the stakeholder engagement with the different stakeholders involved in the process, the business analyst does what? Detected that we only identify fraud after it has happened. So fraud is only detected after it has happened. And this is where the business analyst now decides, I need to carry out a gap analysis. Okay, if this is where we are, where we want to be is not a situation whereby the fraud has taken place. We need to find out before the fraud even happens. So what is that missing piece? Where is the gap in between our process that if we close that gap, we can prevent fraud from happening? So the business analyst then recommends that to the business that we need to come up with a fraud prevention system so that we can do what? Prevent fraud before it happens. All right. And the business analyst would do this and come up with another process which leads to the future states. So looking at what we have, the current states as is today, in the future, what do we want to happen? We want to have a system whereby fraud is identified and stopped before it happens. And finally, that business analyst would then initiate a project, manage that project, and ensure that they are able to deliver a system that can identify and prevent fraud. Now, looking at all these activities from the very first step, the business analyst does what? Carry out preliminary analysis. I want to know the initial impact on the business. We are losing customers. Okay, let's go to the next level. What are the steps involved in our fraud detection process? And identifies that the current process is not very elaborate and engages stakeholders. Why is our process like this? How are you involved in this particular process? And in doing that, found out that we only detect fraud after it has happened. All right, the business analyst then carries out a gap analysis to find out that if we need to get to a future state where we detect fraud before it happens and stop the fraud, what do we need to put in place? We need to put in what? A system that detects and prevents the fraud from happening. So the business analyst will then come up with a process map that is optimized, including that fraud detection system, and initiate the project to ensure that gets implemented within the business. Now, in doing this, the business analyst needs to have some level of skills. Anybody can't just do this. You need to have some level of skills because remember, the business analyst is focused on improving processes. So if our current process is faulty or manual, it could be a faulty process, it could be a manual process. How can we get to the future process or the future states where we have an optimized process, a process that stops fraud from happening? And that's the focus of the business analyst. So in doing this, you must have certain skills. And the first set of skills you must have is Excel, Power BI, and SQL. And these are the data skills, the data analytics skills you must have. Because in carrying out that preliminary analysis, looking at the customer data, finding out that customers have dropped month on month, you can't do that if you don't know how to use Excel to handle, manage data, summarize data, and come up with insights from that data. You'd also need to learn Power BI to visualize the data so that you can see what is happening based on the analysis you've carried out. And you need to understand SQL, Structured Query Language, which is a language to interact with databases. Now, once you've learned how to do this, these are your data skills. I would call them what? Data skills. Once you've learned the data skills, you've learned Excel, you've learned Power BI, you've learned SQL. Remember, you need to know how to map out processes. What is our current process? What should be the future process, the as-is process, and the to-be process? So you need to learn process mapping using tools like Lucidcharts or Draw.io. So you take the process from where the process starts and how the process ends, and you can see it on a map, on a diagram, each step by step on how that process commences and how it ends. So you need to know how to map out processes using tools like Draw.io or Lucidcharts. Then you need to have project management skills. You need to initiate a project. What's involved in managing this project, and how do you manage projects? How do you select your stakeholders, and so on and so forth? And you also would be managing projects using what? Agile and the Scrum framework. You'd use the Scrum principles and the Agile methodology because most of the projects you'll be working on are technology related. You'd have to build a software, or you'd have to develop an application. And you would be the one as the business analyst managing that project to fruition, all right? And also managing and tracking the deliverables. So you learn the different Scrum principles, the Agile methodology, and you track projects using what? Jira. You would also do what? Collaborate on projects using Confluence and Trello. So your project management skills, you track your projects using Jira, you would collaborate, communicate using Trello, and also Confluence, right? You'd also need to understand the software development lifecycle. So when you work on a project where a system needs to be built, you need to understand, how is that system planned? How is it designed? How is it built? How is it deployed? How is it maintained? All right. And this is the software development lifecycle. So you need to understand the framework, the lifecycle, so you can manage those type of projects effectively. You need to know how to gather requirement fundamentals. Now, for us to build this system that will detect fraud, what are the key functional requirements that this system needs to have? Okay, you need to know how to get those type of requirements from the stakeholders. And you will do this through elicitation. Elicitation is where you ask questions, you set up workshops, you set up meetings, you set up focus group sessions where you ask questions, the right type of questions to get the information that you need to implement that project and get it done successfully. And in managing projects, engaging in process improvement initiatives, you'd have to work with different stakeholders, both internal and external. All right. So how do you analyze your stakeholders? How do you engage them? How do you ensure you communicate appropriately and effectively to these stakeholders, and so on and so forth? You'd also need to know that as a business analyst. And finally, AI for business analysis, which you do using ChatGPT. And I always tell people, ChatGPT today is one of the most amazing technologies you can deploy as any professional. Any professional who has to do with data, process improvement, knowing how to embed AI to your work makes you 10 times better. You can do things faster, you get it done more effectively. I call ChatGPT my technical assistant. Okay, I'm working on a model. All I need to do is I discuss with ChatGPT and I get to improve my model a lot better. So you would also learn ChatGPT for business analysis to ensure you do things more effectively, more efficient, and get the job done. So when you look at the 9 skills from number 1 to number 9, these are the skills you need to become a business analyst. So you need these skills in order to map out the current process in that bank, see where the problems are, do your gap analysis, and identify what should be implemented to get this process a lot better. You sit down with the different teams, the different stakeholders, you elicit by asking questions and so on. You gather all the requirements that is needed to deliver on that project. And you must also have project management skills, project initiation, Agile and Scrum, and of course, software development lifecycle. How long does it take for you to learn these skills? 4 months. 2 months in class where you're learning all the techniques, the concepts, and so on and so forth. And 2 months internship, working on a real world project. Because as adults, you learn by doing. And this is one of the mistakes a lot of people make. All right. I have a lot of business analysts. You'd see a lot of business analysts out there. They have a certification, but they don't know how to do the job. So when you get employed as a business analyst, on day 1, can you start doing the job of a business analyst? So your 2 months after you've learned in class, your internship is involved, you'll be involved working on a web application development project. You'd work for a company where that company's HR department currently has a manual deficient process. Okay, so if people want to go on leave, they send emails to go on leave. They do a lot of things manually. So you as the business analyst would go into that company, look at their current process, and you'd work together with a software developer, with a scrum master, and other stakeholders to build a real-life web application. And you'd be the business analyst managing the project. All right. Your classes, in terms of the structure, happens on Saturdays and Sundays. And it doesn't matter where you are. If you're in the UK, you are somewhere in Nigeria, somewhere in Ghana, West Africa region, similar time zone. You have your classes on Saturday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you're somewhere in Canada or in the US, similar time zone, you have your own class starting 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, which is your time zone, a time that fits into your time zone. And on Sundays, you have a class 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. for those in Africa, in the UK, similar time zones. And for those in the US, Canada, 12 noon to 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So it doesn't matter where you are, there's a class that fits your schedule. If you're in the UK, you want to join the class that starts later in the day. For those in Canada, you can do that, and you have that flexibility in moving around your classes. So these are the skills for the business analyst. For the business analyst to do all the things they need to do, they must have these set of skills. And a lot of people also make the mistake thinking that because I'm a business analyst, I can only get a job as a business analyst because I've just studied business analysis. I've just worked on projects, but you don't only get a job as a business analyst. And this is something you have to take into consideration. All right, put it at the back of your mind. The business analysis ecosystem is very broad, and there are so many different nomenclature, job roles, job titles that you would find across the ecosystem. I shared Ramat's story with you. Ramat was a customer success representative with British Gas in the UK. Today, she works with the NHS, but what? As a business architect. She didn't get a job as a business analyst. She got a job as what? A business architect. But a business architect does the job as a business analyst. So you'd find these different, job titles, the different nomenclature, and people get confused. And this is where we also educate you, for those who join the program, that there are so many roles, and these are the ways you need to search for roles within that same ecosystem. You can work as a process analyst, process improvement analyst, product reliability engineer, and that's also a business analyst role. Requirements engineer is also a business analyst role. IT business analyst, business systems analyst, and of course, business process analyst. And these are just a few of the different career paths within the business analysis ecosystem. And like I mentioned earlier, you don't need any background. You don't need any specific experience to get into any of these programs. Somebody's saying they can't hear me. They can't hear me. I'm not sure the problem is from my end. Just to do a very quick mic check. If you can hear me, if I'm audible, just type in a 1 into the chat very quickly. Thanks, Priscilla. Thank you, James. VIP, thank you. Kazim, thanks. Okay. So I believe I'm audible. My colleagues would help you, through the chat for those of you that can't hear me. Now let's move into the other role. Remember, we are looking at the fraud case in the bank. The business analyst has done the preliminary analysis. The business analyst has seen that customers are dropping. The business analyst has looked at the process and has identified that we need to improve this process because currently we can only detect fraud after it has happened. So we need to do what? Build a system that can detect fraud before it happens, right? So the project has commenced within the organization to develop the fraud prevention system, okay? Now, where does the fraud occur? How can we access the bank's data? Remember, the bank has operations across the entire Canada and even has some operations in Europe. So how do we get all the data needed for us to start to identify and find out how to prevent the fraud from happening before it happens? And this is where the business analyst in managing this project has to get the team that will be involved in building this system. And that team is the data team, comprising of the data engineer, the data analyst, and the data scientist. How are they important in this process of preventing fraud in the bank? I'll break down the different roles to you so you have a very good understanding. And like I mentioned earlier, this is a real life story. It happened in reality in one of the banks where one of our experts in-house has worked before, and this was exactly what happened in the bank. So as a data engineer, your major role is to ensure that you are able to build the infrastructure that is needed by all the different players in the organization. Okay, now the bank has different sources of data. Customers can carry out transactions using their mobile app. So for those of you in Canada, for those of you in the UK, you have a Lloyds Bank account, you have a Revolut account, you have a Metro Bank account, depending. You have your mobile applications. Even in Nigeria, you have your GT Bank, your Zenith Bank, you have your mobile app. You carry out transactions. Those transactions are recorded and stored somewhere. If anybody carries out a fraudulent transaction, it can be through the mobile app, and that transaction is also stored and registered somewhere. Okay, it could be through the web application. You do your internet banking. You go online, you log into your user ID, your PIN or your password, you get into your online bank, and you can carry out transactions. The same way, people can also hack into your account, carry out fraudulent transactions. So transactions can also happen on the web. Same with the ATMs and also with the POS systems. And typically, you'd find these different sources where data is generated based on the transactions customers are having. Now, when the data is generated, it is stored somewhere in a database. So the mobile application data transactions get stored in a mobile application database. The web application, internet banking gets stored in a web application database. Same for the ATM and same for the POS. But interestingly, we want to look at fraudulent transactions across the entire bank. The mobile app, the web app, the ATMs, and the POS. But they are all in silos. They're not in the same location. They're in different systems and different databases. They don't speak to each other. All right. So the question is, if we're going to prevent fraud, how do we ensure that we have all the data together in one location so that we can analyze the data, we can identify fraud and immediately detect where that fraud is coming from? But to do that, the data needs to speak to each other. I need somewhere whereby I have my mobile app and my web app speaking to each other. Same with the web app and the ATM. Same with the ATM and the POS. You must have the data interlinked one way or the other, all right? And that's where the data warehouse comes in. And the data engineer's role is to ensure that the data from all these different systems are brought into this central location. Let me write it here. Central location called the data warehouse. So the data engineer's responsibility in this organization is on building pipelines that will move data from the mobile application into that central location called the data warehouse. Move data from the web application into the data warehouse. Move data from the ATM database to the data warehouse, and from the POS into the data warehouse. Now, by bringing the data into a central location, the data is now available for the data analyst and the data scientist. Before this happens, the data analyst and the data scientist cannot do anything because they don't have the data. So the data engineer is responsible for making the data available to the people that need to analyze that data within the bank. So the data engineer creates the pipelines. You can see the diagrams are just like the pipelines you'd see. The pipelines you have that, channels water in your homes and so on and so forth. All right. Now, this process of moving the data from the different sources is done through what? ETL. ETL. And the process of ETL is simply what? Extract. You extract the data from where the data is. from the different databases, and then you transform. T for what? Transform. Now, the data needs to be in a shape that is good for analysis. When you move the data, you want to ensure the data is good for analysis. If you have any dirt in the data called dirty data, you take it out. If the data needs to be in a columnar fashion, you will transform the data from horizontal to vertical, and so on and so forth. And finally, the data engineer loads the data into the data warehouse. So through a process called ETL, the data engineer moves data from all the different sources and puts them in a central location called the data warehouse. Now, I want you to type in the process: ETL, extract, transform, and load. Type it into the charts: extract, transform, and load. That's the process the data engineer carries out to move the data from the different sources into the central location. Type it into the charts: ETL, extract, transform, and load. Thanks, Amino. Thanks, Emmanuel. I can see you've typed into the chat. Tosin, Adiola, Adebimpe, Chukwudi, absolutely phenomenal. Now, without the data engineer, so the data engineer is equivalent to that plumber when you build a house, right? When you build a house, you have your tank outside, but then you need to channel water from the tank into your kitchen, into your bathroom by running pipes. So the data engineer is the person that runs the pipes from all the databases into one location where that data is stored, okay? And the data engineer does this, providing the data to everybody in the organization. So you have the data sources, all the different data sources: the mobile app, the web app, the ATM, the POS, goes through the extract transform process and is stored in a data warehouse. And the data warehouse, the different platforms you have today, you have three major platforms. You have the AWS, Amazon Web Services, you have Microsoft Azure, and then you have GCP, Google Cloud Platform. It depends on the one your organization uses. It's either the organization is using AWS, Microsoft Azure, or GCP, Google Cloud Platform. And that's the data warehouse. So the data sources moves the data into, carries out extract, transform, and load, and moves that data into the data warehouse. Now, from this data warehouse, the data analysts can then connect to get their data to carry out analysis. The data scientists can also connect to get data to carry out analysis. And that's the beautiful role of the data engineer: making data available, making data available. All right. And to make data available requires some unique set of skills. And the data engineering program, you start by understanding the fundamentals of data engineering, introduction into data engineering, what is involved in data engineering, why do you need to move data into a central location? I just explained to you. You can't have data in different silos. This bank currently experiences fraudulent transactions. So we need data across all the different transactions in the bank, from the POS to the web to the ATM and to the mobile application. How can we bring it to a central location? That's the role of the data engineer, all right? You'd need to understand SQL. That's your bread and butter as a data engineer. Structured query language. That's the language that you would use to build your data warehouse. That central location you're moving the data to. You would need to understand SQL. You'd also need to understand Python for your what? Your ETL and your scripting. So the extract, transform, and load you're going to carry out, you do that by writing Python programs. You'd also need to learn Linux for your bash scripting as well. You'd learn how to build your ETL pipelines. You'd learn how to get data from databases, from APIs, through web, so web scraping. So if you have data on the web, how do you scrape the data on the web using APIs and the rest? Now, once you've created your pipelines that moves data from the different sources into the central location, You're not going to be there to do it every single day. You would also need the process to be automated so that if you go on leave, for example, as a data engineer, data is still available in this organization. Fraud does not need to happen because the data engineer is not there. So to ensure that you automate the process, you need to learn Apache Spark and Apache Airflow to ensure that data keeps on extracting, transforming, and loading into the data warehouse. So you learn Apache Spark, you learn Airflow for data pipeline orchestration and scheduling and your pipeline automation. You'd also learn AWS cloud engineering and also work on projects on GCP, the Google Cloud Platform, and Azure. So you'd have a good understanding of all the three major cloud platforms. So it doesn't matter if you get a job with a company where they leverage GCP, you already know how to use GCP. If you get a job where they use the Microsoft's cloud services, Azure, you already have that. Or if the company uses AWS, you'd also know how to use it. You'd learn version control using GitHub, and of course, ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot to make your work a lot better, troubleshoot your errors, and so on and so forth. Like I mentioned, AI is embedded in all the programs because of how important it is. And this is where I like to tell people that, look, AI is not going to take your job. If you find yourself in a role where you're scared of AI taking your job, they are not in the proper career. You need to pivot into another career path. All right. AI complements your skills. It makes your skills a lot better. How do you learn to become a data engineer? You learn for 5 months. That's your learning timeline. 3 months, you'd work in class in a project-based environment, and 2 months, you'd work on a real-world project that involves you building an end-to-end automated pipeline. And this is where your practical experience comes in. Okay, now remember, today's topic is not just about learning the skill, it's about getting the experience and also getting the job. So the experience is where your internship comes in. This builds your experience. During your 3 months in class, you work on so many projects, but what gives you that hands-on experience? Because you're not going to work alone. You work in a group, you'd have that cross-functional interaction with different other players working to solve the same problem. So when you get into an interview and they ask you that question on, tell me about a time you have built an ETL pipeline as a data engineer, you talk about the project you worked on during your internship. So this is how you start to build experience. So 3 months in class, 2 months, you get to be involved in an internship. And your classes are on Saturdays. Your live class happens only on Saturdays. Depending on where you are, you have your class. If you're in the UK, you are in Nigeria, in Ghana, similar time zone, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. West African time. If you're in the US or in Canada, depending on your time zone as well, it's 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So you have a class that fits your schedule, and this is your live class every Saturdays. On Sundays, you don't have a live class. You have something we call the self-paced watch me do it videos. And these are bite-sized videos you can watch. You learn the concept, understand the concept, and then you come into a live class on Saturday to implement and work on projects. Your classes on Saturdays are for what? Projects and hands-on experience, right? So you have a flexible, blended learning approach where you join a live class on a Saturday and then you get to work on, you get to learn at your own pace on Sunday without joining a live class. And these are all the technologies. I've listed them already. You have Python, you have SQL, you have Linux, you have Spark, you have AWS, GitHub, Airflow, you have ChatGPT, GitHub Copilot, and so on and so forth. Now, as a data engineer, what type of roles can you get? Will my job only have the title data engineer? Of course not. You can get a job as a data engineer, as a data architect, as an ETL developer, an analytics engineer, big data engineer, cloud engineer, BI developer, database administrator, and so on and so forth. For those in Canada, you'd see the job title, part of the STEM, for those who want to go through the PR, the STEM pathway for their PR in Canada. You'd see database administrator, and you start to wonder, how can I learn to become a database administrator? And the reason why you think you need to learn separately to become a database administrator is because you don't understand the career path within the realm of data engineering. So if I want to get a job as a BI developer, do I need to go for a specific training on a BI developer for a BI developer? The answer is no. As a data engineer, I would learn the skills for as a BI developer. I would learn the skills to get a job as a database administrator and so on and so forth. Now, the data engineer has done what? Has made the data available. The data engineer has gotten data from all the different systems, from the POS, from the mobile app, the web app, and the, what else now? The ATM, okay? It's time for the data analyst to look into that data and analyze the data. Because data in itself is useless until that data is analyzed. It's like crude oil. Crude oil is useless until it is refined and you get your products, your crude oil products, your petroleum, your premium motor spirits, your jet fuel, and the rest. Data is useless if it is not analyzed. So yes, the data engineer has done all the hard work, the fantastic job of bringing the data into a central location. Now we need to find out what is happening in our data with regards to what? Fraud. And this is where the data engineer comes in. The data analyst, I beg your pardon. The data analyst would then need to do two major things or answer two major questions. All right? A data analyst in an organization answers two major questions. The first question is what happened? And the second question is why did it happen? All right? So fraud is happening in the company, but we want to know exactly what is happening with the fraudulent cases, the fraudulent transaction. So the data analyst would start with number one, what happened, which is called descriptive analytics. Okay, now we need to find out what happened. So the data analyst would get the data from the data warehouse and start to do what? Looking into the different transactions. Look at transaction activities across the different platforms, the mobile application transactions. How many transactions have we had? Okay, the data analyst can come up with a chart that looks like this. So you have different months. Let's say you have January, you have February, you have March, April, May, you have June, the last 6 months. How many fraudulent transactions? In January, we had something like this. February was like this. March, it came down. April, it went up again. May, it was still up. June, it was still up. So you have a trend that looks like this, which are fraudulent transactions. Maybe in January, you had 50 fraudulent transactions, 50. In February, you had maybe 80. In March, it came down to 60. In April, it went up again to what? 90. May, you had 100. And June, you had 100. So this is what has happened. The number of what? Fraudulent transactions month on month. Where are those transactions happening? Why are we having 60 fraudulent transactions in March? Why did it decline? Okay, so you can see the trend. The data analyst would aim to do what? Understand the data and try to find out what happened across the different transaction activities. The geographical analysis, remember, the bank has operations in different regions. Okay, and for some of you that have traveled across different regions, this must have happened to you, and I'll give you my own experience. Now, when I moved from the UK, I had my Lloyds Bank credit card. I used the card to buy something here in Canada. And the moment I swiped it across the POS, my card was frozen and that transaction was declined. Okay, I needed to go to my mobile application to unfreeze my credit card. And the reason why that happened is simple and is similar to what as a result of having a fraudulent prevention system, whereby you are meant to be in the UK, for example, and then your card is used in a different region in Canada. So we are not sure if this transaction actually, if this transaction should go through. So they block it, and you as the owner of that card now needs to tell them that, look, this is not a fraudulent transaction, and your card gets released. I'm sure it has happened to quite a number of you. It's happened to me in the last few months. So the data analyst would also try to find out where are the regions where we have, a whole lot of fraudulent transaction, looking at customer behavior and so on. Are there specific times? Are there specific items that customers would buy that leads to fraudulent transactions? So these fraudulent transactions, what are the common areas where they occur, and so on and so forth? And that's what the data analyst would try to understand in doing what? Descriptive analytics, answering the question, what happened? When you know what happened and the data analyst has seen that, okay, looking at the geographical analysis, I have seen that for cards that were issued in the UK, most of the fraudulent transactions happens in a different region, maybe in Canada. And I've also seen that most of the transactions occur at a specific time. The data analyst will then need to dive deeper into the data to do what? Find out patterns and trends within the data that can tell a story. For example, you do a time series analysis that tells you that most of the fraudulent transactions occur between 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. And these fraudulent transactions that occur between 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. are highly correlated with the data in where? Canada, for credit cards issued in the UK. So you then dive deeper to do something we call diagnostic analytics. Why did it happen? So you see what has happened, the number of transactions. You've seen that the customers that the region where you have most of these fraudulent transactions are not in the UK, but in Canada. Now, why do we have most of those fraudulent transactions in Canada? Why do we have most of the fraudulent transactions in the evening? And that's where diagnostic analytics comes in. You dive in deeper to find out why what is happening, or why what happened actually happened. So you're going to do your correlation analysis, time series analysis, and drill down into the data to find trends and patterns, because these are the most fundamental objectives of the data analyst: descriptive analytics and diagnostic analytics. What happened and why did it happen? These are the two questions you need to answer as a data analyst in any organization. So the data analyst has done this. And for you to answer this question, interrogate the data. So it's like the policeman arresting somebody and questioning that person. Why did you do this? What happened? What did you take? That's the same thing you do with the data. You torture the data. You ask the data questions. And for you to torture the data and interrogate the data to get results of what happened and why it happened, you must understand problem solving. Okay, you must know the right questions to ask your data. You must know how to identify the root cause of a problem. You must know how to break problems into multiple parts until you solve those multiple parts, invariably solving the entire problem. You must know the right techniques and the right frameworks to deploy when solving a problem. So that's the first skill you need to have as a data analyst. Then you need to understand Excel. Excel is one of the most versatile data analytics tools you would ever learn. You need to understand how to use Excel to handle your data, manage your data, analyze, summarize, build pivot tables and pivot charts, build dashboards to get answers from the data that you have. You also need to know how to interrogate and get the data you need from that data warehouse that a data engineer has built. Remember, the data engineer made the data available to you in a data warehouse. But how do you extract your data? You need to know the language of databases and data warehouses. And that's where SQL comes in, structured query language. That's the language for databases and data warehouses. You need to understand it. You need to know how to build data visualizations, how to visualize your data. If I'm going to present to you or present to the management to show them, to show them the month of May or the month of April where we had a spike in fraudulent transaction, I need to visualize it. How do I get my data analyzed and visualized? I'll do that using Power BI. I also need to do that using what? Tableau. So Power BI and Tableau would pretty much do the same thing for you. However, you want to have the two skills as a data analyst. You want to know how to use Power BI, know how to use Tableau so that you can apply to jobs across different companies, because some companies would have a preference for Power BI, some would have a preference for Tableau, but you can get a job in any organization because you have the two. You need to know how to tell a story, because you have analyzed the data, you've seen what is in the data, and you need to tell a story of what happened and why it happened. So you're going to do presentations to communicate your findings from the data you've analyzed. So that data analyst has seen that, look, most of the fraudulent transactions happens in the evenings. Most of them happen with credit cards that were issued in the UK, but the fraud happened in where? Canada. Okay, so how do you tell a story of what you've seen, what happened, and why it happened? And that's the art. It's an art of actually communicating your insights in a way that people who are non-technical can understand what you're trying to pass across. And of course, you learn how to use AI for data analytics, which is you use ChatGPT to make your work a lot seamless, a lot faster, a lot more effective in getting the right results and doing it in record time. And finally, you learn how to use Microsoft Fabric. And Microsoft Fabric is a new platform recently launched, was launched last year by Microsoft, which contains so many aspects of the analytics value chain. So I can be in Canada, I can work with somebody in Mumbai, in India, and I create a data warehouse or a data lake in that in Microsoft Fabric and on the platform, and the person in India can work on that same data, building a dashboard using Power BI. So it makes it very easy to collaborate. And so many organizations have started to adopt Microsoft Fabric today. So if you have the skill, it gives you that advantage immediately over the competition. How long does it take for you to learn these skills? 4 months. 3 months in class, working in a project-based environment. And of course, you have your internship for 1 month. And just like the data engineering program, your live classes are on Saturdays, okay? Depending on your region. If you are in Nigeria, you are in the UK, you have your classes 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. West Africa time. If you are in the US, you are in Canada, you have your classes 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. On Sundays, you don't have a live class. You have a self-paced class. You get to watch your videos on the platform, watch the concept, understand the concept, and of course, you come to a live class the following Saturday to do what? Work on those concepts by working on practical case studies. Okay, and you have so many different career paths, just like the others, because you've done data analytics does not mean the only job you get is a data analyst role. You can work as a data analyst, as a business intelligence analyst, as a product analyst, sales analyst, digital marketing analyst, customer insights analyst, supply chain management analyst, operations analyst, benefits analyst, so many, sustainability data analysts, which is a role one of our participants recently got. And there are so many different nomenclature. And like I mentioned earlier, how do you identify all these different nomenclature so you don't miss out on opportunities? I've seen somebody come to me before and he said, Ades, I want to apply to get a job as a business intelligence analyst. And I asked him, let me know the skills you have. He said, I can use Excel. I can use Power BI. I can use SQL. I know SQL. I know Tableau. And I'm like, these are the same skills you need to learn as a business intelligence analyst. So you have the skills already. But the confusion for so many people is they believe that the moment you complete a data analytics program, the only job you can apply to is a data analyst role. And if you want to become a business intelligence analyst, you need to go learn something different. But that's not the case. And that's why we prepare you for that. We show you how to get that done. Okay. Okay, I'll answer the question, JD. Where does a data lake fit in? A data lake and a data warehouse, they work using the same concept. All right, they work using the same concept. Maybe I'll just answer the question now. Okay, data lake, data warehouse, they work using the same concept. Let me look for a blank slide just to, before we move into the data science role. That's the last role we'll be, talking about today. But let me show you very quickly, okay, what the data lake and the data warehouse. Since the question has come up, let me just take it immediately. Now, we talked about ETL when it comes to the data warehouse, right? When it comes to data warehouse, we talked about ETL. You extract your data, you transform the data, And remember, transformation simply means you are making the data fit and ready for use. Let's take, for example, you need to put the data in a tabular format. The data has to be in a tabular format like this. So it means that you can't have the data horizontal. You have to fit it in a tabular format into wherever you are loading it to. So if the data from the POS comes in a form that is not vertical, you must convert it to become vertical so that whoever needs to use that data can use it immediately. They need to access the data from the data warehouse. Okay, so that's transformation. It involves so many things, from cleaning up the data, making sure the data is right, in the right shape and the right format for analysis before you finally load into the data warehouse. The data lake, on the other hand, follows a process called what? ELT. This is the data lake. T. You'd learn this as well during the program. Okay, so ELT, just like ETL, you'd first of all extract your data from wherever it is, and then you load it into where? Your data lake. So the data lake does not contain data that has already been transformed, that is ready for use for analysis. You've gotten your data and you just load it, you extract and you load, extract and load. And the data lake can also contain different types of data, structured and unstructured, meaning that your data is in the form of a table. The data can also be pictures, or the data can be videos. All right, so you can have different types of data in your data lake. But the most important aspect is we're extracting the data, you are loading the data into the data lake. Now, when the analyst, the data scientist now needs to use this data, that's when they go ahead and transform the data. So whenever you are trying to explain or compare the two, remember ETL and remember ELT. Okay, the data warehouse, you extract, transform, and load, is ready for use. The data lake, you extract and you load. When you want to use, that's when you start to transform the data. Okay, so let me know if that's clear enough for the person who asked the question. All right, now let's move to the final role for today, which is the data science role. Remember, the data analyst has seen that we have so many transaction activities across the major platforms. Looking at the geographical analysis, the data analyst found out that most of the transaction happens on credit cards that were issued in the UK, but the fraud happened in where? In Canada. And also found out from the time series analysis that the fraud happened between 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. And these are some of the things the data analyst has seen. The data scientist, on the other hand, takes it a step further. So the data scientist would know how to carry out descriptive analytics, just like the data analyst, to know what happened. Diagnostic analytics, why did it happen? And the trends and the patterns, because if you know what happened and why it happened, you can tell what will happen. So if you know the type of products these fraudulent transactions the customers buy, if you know when the transaction happens, 1 a.m. to 4 a.m., if you know where, these are cards for a specific bank issued in a specific region, but used to perpetrate those frauds in a different region, you can predict what will happen in the future. And that's the major role of the data scientist, to carry out another step after the data analyst. The data analyst would do this: descriptive, what happened; diagnostic, why did it happen? But the data scientist takes it a step further to predict what will happen based on what happened and why it happened. So the data scientist would develop the system to prevent the fraud by detecting fraudulent transaction. How many of you have carried out a transaction before and you get an email that says, did you carry out this transaction? Or you get a message that says, confirm that you are sending this, money to this person, or you even get your card freezed. If you've had that before, just type in a yes into the chat. It's happened to me so many times because I use cards from different, regions. Absolutely. I'm sure it's happened to, so many of you. The reason why it happens is because these banks have what? A fraud prevention system that can detect that these characteristics, this transaction has the characteristics to be a fraudulent transaction. Just like the time I took my card that was issued in the UK, I went to a store here in Canada, swiped it, and my card was frozen. I tried to order items online using a different card, amazon.co.uk, amazon.ca, and I get my card frozen. I have to unfreeze the card. It's because those transactions follows a pattern or follows the characteristics of being a fraudulent transaction. So even before it happens, the system will flag the transaction and say, freeze that card, don't allow the transaction to go. And that is done using the predictive model that a data scientist would build. So the data scientist would implement machine learning models using different algorithms to train the fraudulent data. Remember, we have fraudulent data that contains fraudulent transaction. So you build a model that is trained using that fraudulent transaction data. So the model now sees the patterns and the trends and the characteristics, the factors that lead and determine a fraudulent transaction, so that when that fraudulent transaction wants to happen, it is flagged to be a fraudulent transaction and prevented. Okay, and that's where the data scientist takes it a step further with what we call predictive analytics. So the data scientist would build the model, test and validate the model, implement the model, and keep on improving that model to make it better and better and better. So that as the model keeps on getting trained with more data, it becomes better in identifying fraudulent transactions. So we can prevent those transactions before they even happen. To get the skills to look into the future and determine what will happen, you need to have some certain set of skills. and your skill would be hinged around statistical modeling. That is what enables you to identify what will happen in the future. It starts from where? Statistics. So you must understand statistics. So you'd start your journey as a data scientist with statistics. You'd learn forecasting and predictive analytics using Microsoft Excel. Okay, so you're learning Excel this time around, but focused on what? Forecasting and predictive analytics using different forecasting techniques, linear regression, moving average, exponential smoothing, the naive process to forecasting. You learn different forecasting techniques using Excel. And then you learn Tableau for data analytics. All right. You'd also learn SQL, structured query language, because you need to know how to interact with the database. When the data engineer has made the data available in that data warehouse, you need to know how to get the data to build your model that will predict the fraudulent transactions. All right. So you learn Excel, you learn statistics, you learn Tableau, you learn SQL. And this is the reason why we call it the full stack. Most data science training you'd see out there, it starts with Python. They'll tell you that you don't need Excel, you don't need Tableau, you don't need SQL, because in reality, most data engineers would not have to be the ones interacting with databases and doing all those things or using Excel. But trust me, it gives you an added advantage having this skill, because you can also apply to jobs as a data analyst, because you can do descriptive, you can do diagnostic, and then you take it a step further by doing what? Predictive. So once you've learned all this, number 1 to 4, you then move into Python. You learn how to use Python for your exploratory data analysis. You learn how to use Python to build your machine learning models that would predict that this is a fraudulent transaction and stop that transaction before it happens. All right. You'd also use Python to build computer vision programs. All right. A computer vision program is very simple. If you look at my screen, you can see only my face, but behind me, there is a wall. There is a wall behind me, but you can't see the wall. And the reason is because there is a computer vision program embedded into Zoom that only identifies the human in front of you. You'd build a similar project, object detection using Python. Okay, I'll show you on LinkedIn if we have time in the next 30 minutes before we wrap up. Okay, you'd also learn GitHub version control. You learn how to use ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot to ensure that you get your work done a lot faster, better as a data scientist. That's simply AI for data science. And of course, you'd also learn Microsoft Fabric. Okay, so in your Microsoft Fabric, you have a module for Power BI. Remember, I said Microsoft Fabric is an all-in-one platform. I can use Power BI on Microsoft Fabric. I can build my data warehouses and data lakes in Microsoft Fabric. I can write SQL queries in Microsoft Fabric. I can write Python codes in Microsoft Fabric. So you learn Microsoft Fabric as a data scientist, and that gives you an edge. How long does it take for you to learn this? 4 months. 3 months in class, working on projects, learning concepts, and so on and so forth. And 1 month for your internship, where you get to work on amazing projects with the HR team. So those that join the HR program would collaborate with the data scientist, and you work together to build a predictive model that can predict when an employee is likely going to leave, so you can prevent that employee from leaving before the employee decides to put in their resignation. So you'd work in that company to reduce their attrition by building a machine learning model. All right. And that's the type of projects we're going to work on. You work on 4 projects as a data scientist, and that's one of them. Your classes are similar to the data analyst class, where you will join your live classes on Saturdays. Depending on your region, you have a time that fits your time zone. UK, US, UK, Nigeria, similar time zone. Europe, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Canada, US, similar time zone, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Now, Sundays, You don't need to be in a live class. You have your self-paced class, you watch your videos, get to understand the concept, come to your live class the following Saturday to work on projects. And just like the other career path, as a full-stack data science trainee, you have the opportunity to get jobs as a data scientist, as a fraud analyst. You saw Tosin's profile. When I showed you Tosin, I told you, take a note. I'll play Tosin's video so you hear what he has to say, how he prevents credit card fraud working for a company in the UK. Similar to what I've just explained, all right? You can get a job as a data analyst, as a pricing analyst, sales analyst, logistics, market research analyst, and so on and so forth. Now, all the things I've explained so far, these are what? Technical skills. Okay, technical skills. The technical skills will not get you the job. The technical skills only represent what? 50% of what you need. So you learn in class, you get your technical skills, you join an internship. So all our programs come with what? Free internship. And what does the internship do for you? This is where you gain your experience. Now, after you've done this, what is the other 50%? And this is where what? Your employability skills come in. Employability. And this is where a lot of people fail. Okay, a lot of people fail to get jobs because they are good with Python. They are very sound with Excel, Power BI. But guess what? They don't have employability skills. They can't answer questions, introduce yourself, let's get to meet you during an interview. They can't answer competency-based questions. Tell me about a time you've used Excel to solve a problem and what was the impact of the result you got. They stumble, they haven't prepared for those type of questions, and that's where employability comes in. I'll take another 10 minutes to explain the employability skills that you need. You need to add this to your what? Your technical skills to make up the other 50%. So technical is 50, employability is also 50%. And this is what gets you the job. And I would also show you practically the people I showed you at the beginning that got jobs across the different programs. You'd see their LinkedIn profile. You'd see certain common denominators that ensures that they are able to land the job eventually. One other thing you must also do, and everybody who joins our program does, is to do what? Build a portfolio. Okay, build a portfolio. We're not going to have time to walk through the portfolio, but I'll show you one of the portfolios. So you just have, an insight into what a portfolio looks like and why it is important. Why is a portfolio important? As a data engineer, as a data analyst, as a data scientist, it's important to show what? Proof of work. Okay, so you don't explain and explain and explain. You have proof that you've done this before. You have proof of your skills and the depth of your skills. So I'm just going to click on one and let's check out. So the first one is for a data analyst, business analyst, and let's look at the data scientist. Okay, so everybody would build a portfolio. All right, so this is Anselm. His name is Anselm Akadu. He's uploaded his customer churn prediction model on GitHub. Everybody would have a GitHub profile. It doesn't matter if you're a business analyst, a data analyst, you will build what? A GitHub profile. Would work with you, you'd build one. Now, you have the data sets Anselm has used. You have the project overview. So if you click on the project overview, let me see what he has here. All right, so this shows you what the project is all about, right? So this is a project for a company called Connectel. And what he's done is what? A customer churn prediction. Now, this is one of the projects you would work on during the program itself, during your classes. So every single project you work on in class becomes part of your experience, and you create a portfolio for that. Okay, so you have about the company, the problem overview. Connectel is a telecoms company, and they currently face the pressing need to address customer churn. What's customer churn? These are customers leaving the company. Now you have MTN, you have Airtel. Okay, you have Fido, you have I use Fido. What's the other one now? Let's say you have Fido, use Telos as well, or Rogers. Okay, now you want to move, or you use 3 or O2 in the UK. You want to move from one network to the other network. So if MTN keeps on having, customers leaving, or Netflix having their customers leaving, moving to Prime, that's customer churn, how long it takes a customer to stay before they leave the company. So this particular telecoms company has that issue. Customers are leaving. They need to find out why customers are leaving. How can they predict customers leaving, why they're leaving, so we can stop them from leaving by providing the right type of services or the right type of initiative. So that's what the project is all about. But let's see what is built. Okay, so that's the project overview. There's a project presentation where, okay, sorry, let's go to the code, the Python codes that Ansel has written to predict his customer churn prediction model. Okay, so you can see his code. You can scroll down, you can see all the things he's done, the libraries he imported, and so on and so forth. You can see here that he did his, he did a correlation plot, and you can see the different plots that he has here. If you go all the way down, his univariate analysis, bivariate analysis, multivariate analysis. This is bivariate. You go down, you see his multivariate analysis, his feature engineering, which you have to do to prepare your machine learning model. Okay, you can see the machine learning, training his model, the X train, the X test, the Y train, the Y test, and so on and so forth. So anybody who comes here and sees what Anselm has done knows clearly that Anselm knows his stuff. And this is why I say your portfolio gives you something we call proof of work and proof of experience. Okay, so that's Anselm. Let's look at very quickly Victoria. Victoria is a data analyst who also joined. So you get to build a portfolio that looks like this, all right? Still on GitHub, but here you have like a front page, a cover with pictures and so on and so forth. So this is Victoria Uchemadu, her data analysis portfolio. If you scroll down, you see the type of project she's worked on, all right? And your portfolio link must always be on your CV so that when that recruiter sees your CV, and they're impressed, they can go further to see the type of work you've done. So they have an idea of your depth of skills. Without even calling you into an interview, they know that, hey, Victoria is one of the people we need to speak to because I can see the amazing stuff she's done, all right? So you have the deep care hospital emergency room visit analysis. And I can look at this project by clicking on this link. It takes me into the Tableau dashboard that Victoria has built. And I can see the dashboard, amazing dashboard, ER hospital analysis by Victoria Uchemadu. I can see the number of ER patients, the average age of the ER patients, the average wait time, average satisfaction score, and it is dynamic. It is not static. If I click, I want to see data for only Q1 and Q2. I can deselect everything. You can see everything is blank. It is interactive. I click on Q1, I click on Q2, okay? And you see the data comes back in, it changes based on what I have clicked and so on. So it's interactive. Any recruiter that sees this knows that Victoria knows her stuff, okay? And that's the essence of having a portfolio. So if you're a data analyst, you're on this call and you're wondering why you haven't gotten a job, you probably don't have a portfolio. If you have a portfolio, what type of projects do you have in that portfolio? So I've left the links here for you so you can interact with them because we don't have time to go through all the different projects. Okay. All right. I'll come back to take all your questions. Don't worry, Harmony, Amino, I'll take all your questions. Now I want to talk about the last part of our session today, second to the last part, which is what separates you from the competition. How do you get a job? What is that additional employability skills I talked about? If you know the technical, you must also know this. in order to get the job. And we help you in 3 major layers. The first layer is where we work on your CV for you. You have your CV review sessions, all right? You have your LinkedIn optimization sessions. You can't have a CV, use one CV to apply to 10 jobs, one CV to apply to 20 jobs, and you expect to get results. You'd never get results. You need to know how to tailor your CV to job requirements. All right, because organizations would use something you call the ATS, the applicant tracking system. So if the job requirement has Microsoft MS, let me ask this question, okay? MS Power BI, which is Microsoft Power BI. This is on the job requirement, but the CV, your CV has Microsoft's Power BI. Let me ask in the chat, are they the same? MS Power BI is what you have on the job requirement. Microsoft Power BI is what you have on your CV. If they are the same, type in yes. If they are not, type in no. Ifoma says no. So type away. Let's see what you think. No, 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 yes, yes, yes. No, 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 yes, yes, yes. Okay, so we have different answers. All right. If you've typed yes, they are the same. You are wrong. They are not the same. Okay. And these very tiny little mistakes have made some people fall short when it comes to the applicant tracking system or the applicant tracking software. And this is what organizations use to take your CV and match it to the requirements on the job adverts. So MS Power BI, if that's what you have on the job requirements, please go to your CV. You can leave Microsoft, don't take it out, leave Microsoft Power BI, but add MS Power BI on your CV. You make sure you have exactly the same keywords. And these are the things we teach you during your CV review sessions. We show you how to tailor your CV to the job requirements and show you how to also do a job matching so that by the time you are done with reviewing your CV, you match that CV and you can see clearly that your CV matches by 80% to that job. And only after you've gotten 80%, we advise you to go ahead and apply. If you don't have up to 80% match, you don't want to apply to that job. I have a free session I did on this where I showed you how to match your jobs using different AI tools like ChatGPT and JobScan. Okay, it's somewhere on YouTube. I'll show you before we leave here today. All right, we do the same, work with you, help you optimize your LinkedIn profile. Upwork optimization for those who want to get jobs as a freelancer, working on different projects across different regions, navigating the job markets. How do you understand the different opportunities within your region? So weekly, we have sessions where we bring in experts from different regions, people that have done the same thing that you are trying to do, to show you, hold your hands to get in the journey going for you. And of course, once you have an interview, you need to know the right things to say. And that's where the interview preparation comes in. We prepare you for your interview. And once you get an offer, we also write a reference and recommendation. The second level is your weekly mentorship, which is broken into 2. You have your weekly mentorship by what? The experts. And you have your weekly mentorship by the body mentors. Who are the body mentors? Your body mentors are those people, Tosin, Tony, Ramat, Ikmat, all the amazing people that have gotten jobs as a data analyst, Abigail as a business analyst, Idris or Michael as a data engineer, Shade as a data scientist. We brought them back to be your body mentors. They've just achieved the things you're trying to achieve. So they have sessions with you every Thursday evenings, and you get an idea of what is expected. Oh, Shade, during your interview, what type of questions were you asked? So you can ask people those type of questions. They've just gone through the same process, and you can leverage from their experience. And once you get the job, you find yourself maybe on a project that seems a bit more difficult than you anticipated. You can always reach out to us and we work with you to ensure that you get that particular difficult aspect, solved. And that's on the job support. And finally, the level 3, which is our promise to you, is a guaranteed interview 1 month after you complete your program. Guaranteed from us, you get an interview 1 month after you complete your program, because of all these amazing initiatives from level 1 to level 2 that we will implement for you, and also our partnerships with recruitment agencies in the UK, in Canada, and also in Nigeria. And we have Eden, we have a recruitment agency, Eden Life, which we work with on an internship basis to get our participants, get them into companies within Africa as well. So based on this, we guarantee 1 month after the program, you will secure an interview. And if you ask, what has made Analytics so successful? All these initiatives that we put in place to ensure that you don't just project your technical skill, you position yourself and project your employability skills. This is what gets you the job. Okay, the best person in Excel, you're the best in Python, does not get you as far as somebody who can ace interviews, knows the right things to say, and so on and so forth. Our next cohort is on the 8th of June, 2024, and we are inviting you to join us during our next cohort starting on the 8th of June. Okay, we've had amazing people join us right from January. We've had cohorts start in January, February, March, April, May, and now the next cohort starts on the 8th of June, 2024. How do you become a part of this? We have an amazing discount for the first 30 people to register across these 4 programs I've just highlighted today. Okay, an amazing early bird discount for the first 30 people who will be joining us across the 4 different programs. And what's the discounts? Now, rather than paying the full amount of joining either the data analytics, the business analysis, data science, or data engineering, instead of paying $750 for those paying in dollars, you get to pay just $600. So you get $150 right off the bat for you to get started. And you also have the opportunity to make your payments in 2 installments. All right, the first installment of $400 to get you into the class, where you also get a welcome kit. The welcome kit, once we've confirmed your first deposit, contains all the materials you need for the class: your Excel, your Power BI, your Python, your SQL, all the things you need for the class. You have them provided to you. You download, you install, where as the case might be, depending on the program you registered for. And your second installment comes in 1 month after the program commences. So for you to start, you need to make the first payment, you get into the class, and a month after, you make the balance payment of $200. And if you're paying in pounds, instead of paying £625, you get to pay just $500, where you pay £350 and then $150 as your second installment. If you're paying in euros, instead of 730, you get to pay just 580, 20% discount right off the bat. 400 euros to get into the class, and 180 a month after the class must have commenced. If you're in Canada, the original amount is 1125 Canadian. Instead of paying 1125, you get to pay just 900 Canadian dollars, 600 to get into the class, and you balance up 300 a month after the program must have commenced. If you're paying in Naira, you get to pay 720,000 instead of 900. All right, you get a whopping 220,000 Naira discount. So you get to pay 500,000 to start your journey, and then 220,000 a month after the program must have commenced. Okay, so I'm going to show you, and I'll take questions before we wrap up. We'll have a Q&A section in the next few minutes. After, I'll just show you, for those who want to make payments and be a part of the first 30, you can make your payments by simply scanning the QR code, and I'll walk you through how you complete the payment get your receipts, register by clicking on the link you receive in your email, and then you start your journey on the 8th of June. Now, some of you would have the question, I'm busy in June. I have a commitment, or I have commitments already for June. Can I start in July? The answer is yes. Can I start in August? The answer is yes. So we've also kept the opportunity for you to defer. If you don't want to start in June, you can start in July, or you can start in August. All right. So you can defer up to 2 months ahead of time. But the most important thing for you is you must have taken advantage of the discounts we have available. All right. So if you want to make payments, how do you go about that? I'll show you in the next 1 minute, and then I'll take your questions. I know you have a lot of questions in the chat. All right. So all you need to do, my colleagues are also sharing the links for those who are interested in being a part of the cohort starting on the 8th of June. All you need to do is click on this link. When you receive the slide, you'll also get access to this. So you click on the link, it takes you to the enrollment center. Okay, it takes you to the enrollment center. Now, one of the things you want to do, you can get access to the entire, to the entire brochure for the program you want to register for. And I'll give you an example. So let's assume I want to pay for the data analytics program. I click here, it takes me to access the brochure. I look for data analytics, and I click on data analytics. Okay, and I can see the nitty-gritty of all the things I'll be learning. Okay, I can see who my trainers would be. I can see what I'll be learning, and so on and so forth. All right, so you can scroll all the way down. You'd see what the program entails, looking at the brochure. When you get into introduction, once you get into Excel, you go to introduction into Excel. What do you learn under that? You learn the Excel environment. You learn the basic functions in Excel, pay special, cell referencing. You go to data manipulation and data cleansing using Excel, named ranges, Excel tables, data cleansing functions, data modeling using Excel. You learn the VLOOKUP, the XLOOKUP, the VSTAR, the HSTAR, the index and match. All the things you learn under Excel, you'd see them there, okay? Same with Power BI. What am I going to learn under Power BI? I'll learn introduction, data manipulation and modeling. I'll learn data analysis and DAX. I'll learn data visualization. I'll learn how to publish my reports to the Power BI service. Same with SQL. You look at all the things you learn, okay? And of course, who will be my trainers? Who will train me? You see the type of projects we are going to work on as well. All right. You'd work on the fraudulent transaction project. You can see that here. Fraudulent transaction in the bank is one of the projects you're going to work on, the one I explained to you. Okay. You see some other projects for the aviation industry, for a charity organization, and so on and so forth. And then you get to see your trainers. Okay, so who will train me and who will be my facilitators? I'm going to be one of your facilitators, yours truly, myself. You'd have the co-founder, Efemena, is also going to be one of your facilitators. You have Olugbemi, who is a data analyst with the Law Depot in Canada. He's also currently a solutions analyst with one of the largest insurance companies in Canada. You have Oladapo. Oladapo is a senior consultant with Deloitte in Bermuda. He's going to work with you on Excel. You have Mohammed, who has over 5 years experience as a data analyst and has also worked for Alfa Romeo in the US, lived in Nigeria, worked remotely for Alfa Romeo, working in the supply chain department. All right. You have Shukrat, who's also going to be one of your facilitators, and you have an amazing gamut of fantastic professionals. Now, I've decided that I want to register for data analytics. All I need to do, and if you want to chat with us, you can do that here. Just click on this link. It takes you into a WhatsApp interface, and you can chat with our customer success associates if you have any questions. Or I can simply just go to how I can pay in 2 major ways. You can either pay by doing a direct transfer using any of our account details in pounds, in dollars, in Canadian dollars, euros, or in Naira, using our Naira accounts, which is the Wema Bank accounts, Mainstack Tenalytics Payment Center. That's the account's name. And if I want to pay with my card, credit or debit card, all I need to do is come in here, select data analytics, click on that, and it takes me to where I can make payments for data analytics. Now, remember, the fee for data analytics is $500, 500 pounds if you're paying in pounds, $600 if you're paying in dollars. It's showing my currency in pounds, all right? So all I need to do, let's assume paying in pounds, 500, I can pay in 2 installments, 350 first installment, 150 second installment, okay? But I don't have 350 today, and I want to take advantage of the discount. I can pay an initial to secure my discounted slots, because the moment we get to 30 people that have registered for data analytics, the discount is off and everybody else would have to pay the full amount. So there's a minimum amount you can pay. You see that right at the bottom. The minimum is £250 to secure your discount slots. Let's assume I have 300. I just come in here and type in 300. Okay, I click on reserve a seat. I enter my name, enter my full name, Adeza Suleiman. All right, I enter my email. Okay, enter my phone number, and I click on pay with card. Now enter my card details. And the moment I do that and I click on confirm payments, I will receive an automated receipt into the email I have provided, right? And you'd also receive a link for you to fill a form to register. Now, the link you receive to fill is where you get to indicate if you want to start in July, you want to start in August, or you want to start in June. Okay, so you have the opportunity to do that. Now, if you have gone ahead to make payments by doing a direct transfer, maybe you've paid in Naira or you've paid to our bank account in pounds, all you need to do is take a screenshot of the payments, all right? Take a screenshot and go to where you have upload your receipts. This link of upload your receipts is the automated link you would receive if you pay using your card. So if you pay using your card, you don't have to come back here. But if you've done a direct transfer, because it's not automated, you take a screenshot, come in here, click on upload your receipts. It takes you into this form. And then you get to fill the form. You enter your email, click on next. I want to show you what you need to do for those of you that might want to defer, or some of you might not be sure if I should do the data science or data analytics or data engineering. This is what you need to do. Enter your type of payment. If you made the full payment or initial payments, click on next. Select yes, click on next. You qualify for the discount, enter your first name, your last name, your Gmail, your gender, click on next. Okay, read the terms and conditions and click on yes, you've read. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us on any of these phone numbers on the form, or you can send us an email to enquiries@tenalytics.io and somebody would respond to you. Click on next. Okay, when did you make payment? Enter the details, upload the screenshots as proof of payments, your mode of payments, click on next. You enter the account name that you use to make payments. Now, if you are not sure the program to join, we've talked about 4 different programs today: data analyst, data scientist, data engineer, and business analyst. If I'm sure I want to go for business analysis, I click on that. Or I want to go for data analytics, I click on it. But if I'm not sure, all you need to do is click on, I need to speak with a professional. That's all you need to do. And I'm going to invite you on Monday or Tuesday, where I'll work with you one-on-one to help you make that decision. So once you select, I need to speak with a professional, we'll schedule you for a one-on-one session. Click on next, takes you to the next. Now, this is where for those who might want to start, sometime after June, if you want to start 8th of June, select 8th of June. If you want to start 6th of July, select 6th of July. If you want to start on the 3rd of August, you select 3rd of August or 7th of September, depending. Okay, so all you need to do is select the date that is favorable to you. The advantage is you would have taken your discounted slots, so you don't have to make the full payment for those who will be making the payments in subsequent month. And that's how you get into the class. All right. So I can see some questions coming in. I'll just walk you through very quickly into the platform. When you register, you've made your payment and you've joined us, you get into a platform like this. This is the data engineering classroom for those that started in March. So you see that 2403, this is the March cohort for data engineering. Now, one of the first things you'd see are your employability resources. So you have your Upwork optimization, you have your LinkedIn optimization session, and these are sessions that are live sessions, but you have the recordings. So if you miss the live class, the recording is here. For the Upwork optimization, all you need to do is come in here, click on the link, watch the recording. Okay, if you click on the link, it takes you to the recording. You can watch the recording and see everything that happened during that session. Okay, similarly for the LinkedIn optimization, you also have the job tracker. This is how we track the jobs you're applying to. If you're applying to enough jobs, if you are not, we nudge you to go ahead and apply to more jobs. So you would record your job applications here, and we track it from the back end to see the number of applications you are making. And once you've done 15 applications and you haven't received an interview or gotten an interview, we sit down with you to refine the strategy that you've been deploying using the job application tracker. All right. You have your CV review sessions. You have a template that you would use as a data engineer or a business analyst, and you work with the very best templates that does the best with the ATS, which is called the Wharton CV format. I'll write it down for you, don't worry. Let me type it in the chat. It's called the what? The Wharton CV format. Okay, which is the best CV format for you to use. So we provide the one for the data engineer. All you need to do, because you've gone through the CV review session, you know how to tailor your CV. You start to do what? Address and adjust your CV. You see your mentorship sessions, which happens every single Thursday, every week, from when you start till whenever you are tired of joining. So even though your training is over, your internship is over, but you want to join the mentorship, you can join the mentorship sessions every time and you have unlimited access. Okay. One of the sessions you treat, the seats and the star approach. The seats approach is for introducing yourself. The star approach is for what? Answering competency-based questions. So you have a session on that, the power of personal branding in tech, related jobs. We had a session on that. We had a session on how to apply to jobs, practical session, where we brought in Muhyiddin. Let me show you the gentleman. He's a body mentor. All right. So Muhyiddin, who took this session, Muhyiddin Ade Akoni. Muhyiddin is currently working with a company in the UK. He lives in Ibadan, Nigeria, works with the company in the UK, and he's working remotely. He's earning in pounds, spending in Naira, and he got this job after completing his data analytics program. So we bring people like this that you can easily relate to walk you through that same path that they have just followed. All right. So this is an example of the body mentors I explained earlier. Okay. So for anybody who missed the session, you have access to the recording. You have a session on data is life for the data engineers, salary negotiation, and so on and so forth. Okay, what recruiters look out for, Q&A with a recruitment expert. We brought a recruitment expert from the UK and Canada, and you have a Q&A sessions and so many other things, all right? We provide you with some books that are good for you to look at and read. And we have something we call the drop-in session. So let me quickly explain the drop-in session. What does it mean? You joined a class on Saturday or you miss a class on Saturday, you need a makeup class. And the makeup class does not involve everybody. It involves you that have missed the class. So every Wednesdays in the evenings, we have the drop-in session. For those that have missed classes on a Saturday and they need help, catching up with what was done in class, or they have questions that they cannot solve on their own. And the reason why we came up with the drop-in session is because we know that most of you are new into this career path and you will have challenges. Okay, you will have challenges. It's not, it's normal, it's a given that those challenges would come up. So if you need help where it's different from when you're learning on your own, self-paced, there is nobody to ask questions. Here in the drop-in session, you can join in a session with your trainer, with a data coach, and they walk you through everything that you need to get done. So you have your drop-in sessions, and they're also recorded. So anybody who maybe did not join the last drop-in session can come into this classroom, access the video, see what was done, and also learn one or two things. And of course, let's move to the class itself. So week 9, what did they do? They've worked on what? Web scraping, Apache PySpark, also getting data from APIs as well. Okay, and let me show you what makes this amazing. All you need to do, week 9, when you have your live class, you come into the class login and the class material. Okay, so you have access to everything that was done. So I can come to the slide, I click on the slide, and this is what we mean when we say project-based classes. When we say your classes are project-based, this is what we mean, okay? So you work on a case study every single Saturday. And for this case study, you are doing what? Working with what? APIs, right? So you understand what APIs are and so on and so forth. And then you implement on a case study. The case study is for a company in the media space, media analytics. So you are a data engineer at a media analytics company, which specializes in producing reports, reviews, and data-driven analysis on popular shows or movies. All right. Your task is to do what? Interact with the Rick and Morty API, which contains Rick and Morty data in order to meet the following goals and business questions. So you want to get data using an API. Which are the type of things you do on the job itself? So we don't prepare you to just know how to use the tool. We prepare you to know how to do the job on day one. So this is an example of some of the case studies. You do that in class. So this is the class itself. You can see the class facilitator. If I click on the link, you can watch the video. For those who missed the class on that particular day, you have access to the video. You can come back, watch what was done, look at the case study, look at the slide, and you see the class is interactive. Click on play. You have everything that was done. This is the facilitator sharing his screen, and you can stop the trainer, ask questions. If you are trying to do the same thing the trainer is doing, you can't get it done, you have the opportunity to share your screen, and your facilitator will tell you what you're doing wrong or what you're doing right. Okay, so this is what a typical classroom would look like. And of course, if you scroll down week 8, you have another case study on GitHub, Pandas, NumPy, and you see all the amazing stuff you get to work on, okay? Database, data warehouse models, and you have group projects. We believe in learning in groups. So you have a group called the Superstar Group, the Trailblazer Group, and you work together in groups to solve problems, okay? And this is just showing you what the program itself looks like. And when you complete your first 1 month, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, you take a break on week 5 and continue from week 6. And of course, you can see how you start is starting from the fundamental. We don't throw you into the deep end. You start right from introduction and you work your way up. Introduction to data engineering. You learn what, or you watch all the different videos. Your first video is what? What is data? That's how you start. You don't start by writing codes. No. What is data? Okay. The 5 V's of data. What is data engineering? So these are videos you watch on your own. These are your watch me do it. All right. You learn about the 5 V's. If I click on the 5 V's of data, for example, you'll have a look at what it is. Okay. You can see the video. It's a 4-minute video, very short, bite-sized videos. So these are your watch me do it videos. You watch this for 4 minutes. You have the volume, the velocity, variety, veracity, and the value. These are the 4 V's of big data. Okay. And that's how the classroom looks like. I just thought I should show you and you have a good idea of the platform before I start taking questions. Okay, so let me scroll through the charts and start taking questions. So please feel free, if you have questions, ask your questions, or if you want to speak, you can raise your hand. We'll take questions for the next 5 to 7 minutes, and then we'll call it a day. All right. Somebody sent me a chart. I want to start in October because I'm doing a vital course at hand and hope to finish in September. So iPhone, I can't see your name, but your name says iPhone. So what I'll advise you to do is take advantage of the discounts, okay? You don't have October on the list right now, but what you can do, you make your payments, and all you need to do is just send us a message to this number. Send us a message to any of these numbers on the screen. So you can see the numbers on the screen. Just send a WhatsApp message, okay? Or send an email to inquiries. That's all you need to do. And we'll organize that for you, okay? I hope I answered that question. Let me take more question. How much is the part payment for data analytics and business analysis? So you have the same amounts across all the 4 programs, okay? The fees are the same for all the 4 programs. So depending on how you're paying, if you're paying in dollars or pounds or naira, it depends on what you're paying. If you're paying in dollars, for example, $400, $200, all right? So you make your initial payment, and the second payment comes in a month after the program must have commenced. So the program commences on the 8th of June. So a month after that, 8th of July, you would have made the payment for the second part of the payment. Let me see. I have made payments. Bookie is saying, Booking Johnson, I have made payment, but you just remembered I'll be on the flight of the 8th of June. What do I do? So it's not a problem, Johnson. If you have a flight on the 8th of June, you don't miss anything, like I said. Depending on the program you joined, every single class, like I highlighted, you have your class recording, okay? So what I advise you to do, Johnson, is if you miss the class on the 8th, watch the recording when you have the time, okay? Watch your recording and ensure that the week after, you join your drop-in session. Okay, let me just scroll up there again. You see the drop-in session. Ensure you join the drop-in session. So the drop-in session is designed for those who have questions. They've been working on something, they can't get it, they need somebody to speak with, or they want to catch up on what was done in class the previous weekend. So these are the steps we've put in place to reduce the friction when it comes to the challenges newbies always have when transitioning. So you have your recording in class, you go into the classroom, you watch your recording, and you also would have your drop-in session the following Wednesday, okay? And you have access in a WhatsApp group to ask questions, and you have that answered. Let me see. Slay saying, I'm in the May cohorts, but I like to be a data engineer because I think I have gotten the required skill for data engineer like Python, the machine learning, contemplating about the data engineering or data analyst. So Slay, I'm not sure the program you joined, all right? But you have the first 2 weeks. So for those that started in May, you started on the 6th of May, last week, all right? So you have last week and this week to make your decision. So the first 2 weeks, you can still change your programs. It doesn't matter. If you start with the data analytics and a week or 2 weeks, you feel like, I think data engineering is what I want. You can, change into data engineering. You can divert within the first 2 weeks. After the first 2 weeks, you can't, defer your program anymore. All right. So all you need to do, Slay, just send a message to any of your class coordinators in your WhatsApp group, and somebody would pick it up from there. Tosin is saying, I made the payment for business analysis June 8th. My question is, will the internship start immediately after the class? Referred me in February. Okay, so the reason why, let me tell you the reason. Internship, everybody does not start internship at the same time. And the reason is simple. Let me show you Tosin that asked the question. Now, your friend referred you, absolutely amazing. We love your friend. We love people that refer. When you complete your program, let me go to a class in business analysis. The moment you complete your classes, there is a capstone project you need to complete. So let me go to business analysis for, let's say, February. I think February should have completed by now. Let me see. So I want to show you practically February, March, April. Well, let's go to January. Business analysis January. All right. So Tosin, the moment you are done, you get into a capstone project. Okay. You can see the capstone project, the BA capstone project. All right. Now, the capstone project, if you haven't completed your capstone project, you can't join the internship. For you to join the internship, you must have completed your capstone. So some people would say that, oh, I've been busy at work. I have my master's program. Can you give me 1 week extra to submit? So Tosin could have started hers the week before, but I haven't completed my capstone project. I would have to wait for the next internship starting for me to join. All right. So that's what happens. So the moment you are done with your classes, you jump into your capstone project. The moment you are done with the capstone project, we give you 1 week break. We give you a break for a week, and then you start the internship. Okay, but if you haven't completed the capstone, you can't join the internship. So the capstone project does 2 things. It first of all shows completion. And secondly, it is a project that shows that all the things you've learned in class, you can implement them on your own working on a project. Okay, so I hope I answered that question, Tosin. How much is the minimum amount you can pay? So Samson is asking, so for those in Nigeria, the minimum amount, like I said, it's at your discretion to a very large extent. Okay, because today is the 11th of May. The class starts on the 8th of June. So between now and 30th of May, you see that first initial payment of 500 if you're paying in Naira. You can decide that, okay, I want to pay, today I have 200K, I want to pay 200. Next week, I'm going to have the balance of 300, and you get to pay the 500. You can say, oh, I have 200K, I'll secure my discounts today, okay? And then I'm going to pay the balance. I'm going to pay another 200K maybe next week. And before 30th of May, I'll pay the balance of 100K for my first installment. All right. But if you are doing this in multiple parts, then you have to make the payments doing a direct transfer, because that's the only way you can break it like this. But the most important thing, making this first payment, it secures the discount for you. So if you come back maybe 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, and say, I want to make my first payments, we then have to check if the discount is still available or not. And once we get to 30 people, you can't take advantage of that discount again. I hope I answered the question, Samson. All right, so somebody said I made payment for HR. I'm interested in data. All you need to do, if you receive a confirmation email from us, reply to that email. If you also receive, or you can just send us a message to or email to any of these numbers on the screen. Send us a WhatsApp message or send us an email. Just send an email to enquiries@analytics.io, and somebody would make that arrangement for you. All right. I just made payment for data engineering, but I'm having issues uploading my payments confirmation in the form. It won't let me attach the screenshots. All right. So what is happening in Manuel is the screenshot, the image might be too large, but what you can do again, we can help you out with that. Just send us an email to enquiries@analytics.io, and somebody would reach out to you and help you do the uploading and, complete the process. Okay, so you can take a screenshot of this page, save our numbers, send us a message on WhatsApp, or send us an email. The response is always very fast. You get a response in less than an hour. Okay. Okay, so I'm just checking messages. So you're welcome to the program, Emmanuel. Let me see. Can you share the link to the YouTube? All right, fantastic. So let me show you where you can access YouTube for all the amazing contents that we have. So you go to YouTube, first of all, okay? Go to YouTube, search Tenalytics. All right. Search Analytics. Click on the Analytics logo and make sure you do what? Subscribe. Make sure you what? Subscribe. All right. So this brings you to our YouTube page. And here you have amazing content. So if I click on video, so you can watch all the testimonials, for example, listen to all the amazing people like Oluwadamilare, who recently just got a job as a sustainability data analyst. He started last month in April, and you can listen to his story. You click on videos and you get to watch all the amazing sessions we've had. Okay, let me see if I can find that video very quickly and share the link. Yes, crafting a standout CV. You can see that here. Crafting a standout CV in 2024. What tech recruiters demand. Okay, so let me send this link to you, or you can simply just come in here. Make sure you subscribe. Okay, make sure you subscribe to Analytics and you get access to all these amazing content. Okay, so it's a practical session. You can see me there. You can see the CV we used on this. And these are the sessions. The session on tailoring your CV using ChatGPT. I take that session for the participants during the program. Okay, so let me copy the link. I'll drop it in the chat. But again, you can always just go to YouTube and watch it from there. Okay, so I just dropped it for the person that asked. And for those of you that want the recording, at the end of today's session, the recording will be made available on YouTube too. All you need to do is come to our YouTube page and you have access to everything that you need. All right. I'm going to start wrapping up the session, but I want to show you something very important before I wrap up and close out for today. Very important. Part of the things that would help you get a job. Now, I talked about Ramat, who recently got a job as a business architect. So I'm going to go to Ramat's profile, Ramat Bankole. I'll go to our profile and I want to show you something. And this is something you need to take into consideration, okay? I'm going to click on Ramat. And this is Ramat's profile. One of the first things you'd see is you both worked at Analytics. And if you go to Ramat's profile, you'd see that Ramat used to work as a customer resolution agent with British Gas from December 2021 to 2023, October. Okay. She joined us in April, completed her training in August. So August, September, by October, she landed a job as a business architect with the NHS. Okay. One of the things you'd see across all the people that have gotten jobs is they have Analytics on their profile on LinkedIn. And it's one of the things we encourage you to do. So you're not going to position yourself as a beginner or as a learner. You position yourself as what? A business analyst consultant, a business analyst contractor, as the case might be. If I go to Damilare's profile, let me go to Damilare, Oluwadamilare. Damilare started his job last month in April. You'd see the same thing too. And these are the things you learn on LinkedIn. So a lot of people position themselves as beginners or, oh, I've completed, training. I want to get a job for free. Can I do a job for you for free? Do an internship. We don't buy into all of that. There is nothing like I want to get an internship when I'm done learning. The same skills you are learning or you just learned are the same skills the professionals doing the job are also using. So you see Damilare's profile, you see that he worked with us as a data analyst on a contract basis. He got his job as a sustainability data analyst, currently working with BAM in the UK. We worked with him during his interview. And when you position yourself like this, positioning for the job, you easily get opportunities compared to you presenting yourself as a beginner. All right. I'm not sure I have more questions in the chat. If I haven't answered your question, you can copy and paste it again. But I think I've pretty much answered all the questions I have in the chat. Let me just see, scrolling up very quickly. Scrolling up very quickly. Yeah. Will the form be sent? Absolutely. Let me see. How is the timetable like? And will there be recordings? I think I've touched on that already. okay, in case I can't make a class. I touched on that. All your live classes are recorded. All the live classes, they are recorded so that if you miss the class, you can always come back to watch. Can I pay 600 as full payments? For which program exactly, Emmanuel? There's no program for 600,000 here. If you're paying in Naira, it's 720,000 Naira, and that's a discount, okay? You can make the first installment of 600. You can do that in manual and pay the balance afterwards. All right. No, we can't take 600, unfortunately, manual. The 720 is already discounted for you. Okay. Absolutely. Is there a certification after completion? Yes, you get a certification, and you will, after your capstone project, you get a certificate, and then you join the internship. Can you please drop the email address you had earlier? It's right on my screen, but let me drop it for you, Emmanuel. I'll drop it on the chat. Enquiries@10analytics.io. Okay. Or Emmanuel, you can simply just go to our website. I've dropped it in the chat, or you can simply go to our website, www.10analytics.io. Okay. It takes you to our website, and you can simply click on the chat button to chat with us. My internet is a bit slow, don't know why. Just give me 1 second, Emmanuel. So you can send us an email, or you can simply just come to our website, and you come to the website, yeah, and you simply go to this icon at the down right corner, click on it, and you type in the message here. Somebody will respond to you on WhatsApp immediately. All right. You're welcome, Emmanuel, and welcome on board again. Can I get a job and move overseas? The company sponsor? Absolutely, company sponsor, but I'll tell you for a fact that the number of job sponsorship have reduced drastically. And the reason is because, let's take the UK, for example. The UK recently reduced they've cut down on immigration, literally. You can't come in for certain type of roles, even your master's program anymore. You can't come in with your family except as a PhD, and so on and so forth. All right. So you have a whole lot of dependents in the UK today that are currently jobless. And when I say jobless, I don't mean they don't have jobs they are doing, but they don't have a professional career track. They are either in care, or they are in warehouse jobs, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you have people who are now getting the skills to apply to those jobs available in the UK. Same with Canada as well. So countries are reducing, getting people, uprooting them from their countries into the country. But what you see happen is you have more remote jobs available today. Or if you are in the country already, it's a lot easier for you to get the jobs, all right? Because there's a current talent shortage across the major economies. So you have the opportunity to get those type of jobs, okay? Let me see. If you have a question, JD, you can send your question here, or send us a message or an email, and somebody would answer the question that you have. Let me see. Can you please? Okay, I think I've dropped that. Another question is, if I have a job in another location, will I be the one to spend all the expense? I'm not sure I understand your question exactly. Yeah, I think I've answered all the questions we have. It's been a long day, about 2.5 hours we've spent today. Now, if you now understand the difference between the data engineer, the data analyst, the data scientist, type in yes into the chat. Sorry about that. I was just tripped off very quickly, but we're wrapping up already. So I was asking, if you now know the difference between the data analyst, the data scientist, the data engineer, just type in a yes into the chat. Okay, the bank says yes. Gabriel says yes. Can I apply for a job in the UK? I live in Budapest. Absolutely, Slay. That's what we do. Let me show you this gentleman very quickly, and I'll wrap up my session from there. I talked about Muideen, one of our body mentors today. And Muideen currently, he works in Nigeria, and he works for the company in the UK remotely. Muideen, just give me 1 second for it to come up. I think my network is a bit slow. Muideen Ade Akoni. Should bring up the drop down. I don't know why this is slow. I just needed to show you very quickly, Slay, before I wrap up my session today. My network is a bit lagging. It's a bit slow. I'm not sure why that's the case, but just give me 1 second and let's see if we can bring in Muideen's profile. Yeah, Muideen Ade Akoni. Okay, so Muideen. All right, sorry about that, Slay. I think I just switched my network now. Should be a lot better. I was trying to show you something on how to showing you Muideen and how people just like you have been also able to get jobs across different regions. So let's go to Muideen's profile. So this is Muideen, okay? You'll see Muideen, you both worked at Analytics, and you'll see Muideen, of course, just like other people who position themselves, Muideen worked with us as a data associate, data collection analyst, and so on. And today, he works as a business development manager with BBX in the UK. Now, part of the things Muideen does for this company is helping them get new customers, new clients, looking at their data across their Salesforce, CRM, and other customer relationship management tools to identify the clients that it needs to, get into the company and so on and so forth. So you have somebody like Muideen currently doing that. There is another lady, Karima, working remotely. You also have Abdul Rashid. I don't know if I shared Abdul Rashid on my slide at the beginning. I think I did. You'd see Abdul Rashid also working remotely as a data scientist, working with Child 420 in the US. He works remotely. You have so many of them, so many. You also have Victor. Victor worked as a people operations analyst with Hugo in the US. He lived in Lagos, Nigeria, worked for Hugo just after he completed his training with us. So you'd see Victor worked as a HR analyst in our HR analytics program. He worked with Hugo as a people operations analyst for the company in Chicago, Illinois. He worked with them, and then he got a job, moved from that role into a senior HR business partner role. All right. So part of the things you'd learn during your navigating the job market, during your mentorship sessions is on how to apply and land remote work opportunities. All right. I'd like to call it a day at this point. If you have a friend, you have a brother, you have a sister, you have a colleague, somebody who is interested in getting into tech, just like Tosin, whose friend recommended and referred her to Analytics, send this message to somebody, let them also get started. All right. I would like to say thank you very much for allowing us to be a part of your Saturday. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Saturday. And for those of you who, just like me, it's 3:33 my time, so the day is still very young. Enjoy the rest of the day, enjoy your Sunday, and have a wonderful weekend ahead. I'd love to see you in the program, love to see you registered. If you have any questions, follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, Twitter, X, across all the platforms. Subscribe to us on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and you get to see the amazing work we are doing across board. Cheers, guys, and enjoy the rest of the weekend.